Welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie writers on the journey to publication. I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
I'm Christina Catane, and I write in multiple genres, including Christian dystopian fiction.
I'm Rhonda Hagerman, and I write fiction and nonfiction. Currently working on a series of articles for the Hometown Historical Society.
Yes, and we are your happy hosts. Welcome, ladies. How you doing today?
Good.
Good.
Good. Yeah, all right. Well, we like to start the podcast with a segment we call What's Up? We check in with one another, find out how the writing's going, how the personal life is going. So what's up with you, Jen?
Well, last week I was at camp meeting with Tina, which she'll talk about that a little bit as well. And I got some writing done. Yesterday I went to pick up my son, who was a counselor at that camp, and his summer is over down there. And so I got to spend a good couple hours next to the beach while he packed up, and my girls swam. And I got some great planning done. I got some newsletters written. I got a lot of things done. So I feel like I had a really productive week, even though it was supposed to be a vacation week.
Yeah,
So that was
great.
Yeah. What about you, Tina?
Did you feel stressed out? Did you feel stressed out doing that work on your vacation, or was it just like fun work?
No,
like, sort of,
You know what stressed me out was that I mentioned it last week that I think that I came home early because my daughter got a rash on her face and her neck. And so the doctor basically told us he didn't want us to stay camping. So we drove down every night for the evening services. So my kids did not miss out entirely on the experience. So that was maybe more stressful, but it was fine. I enjoy writing. So especially being next to the lake with a nice breeze and sitting at my laptop, that was pretty cool to me. I'm trying to.
Sounds inspirational.
Yes. So
yes.
All right. Well, Tina, what about you? I know a little bit about your week because I was with you a lot. But how was your week?
It was good. I did manage to write every day.
All right.
So I fulfilled that goal, and I was happy with the progress that I made. So
awesome.
What about you, Rhonda? What's up with you?
Well, I've told everybody about my coloring book project and about how a teacher from the school district where the historical museum is, she basically wrote a book at a 3rd or 4th grade reading level, talking about the history of Grand Blanc, which is sort of what they were looking for in the coloring book, except it's like an actual workbook that the school district used. And so I was really excited to find that. And so I went and met with her today. And so we added a couple things, changed a couple things. But the exciting thing is that she showed me this. So there's a teacher's instruction book that goes along with the packet. So
wow.
I'm super excited about that. So, maybe some homeschooling families will start coming in. We can give that to them or whatever. So anyway,
that's awesome.
I had a very good, fruitful day this morning.
That's awesome. How exciting for you. I know you were looking forward to that meeting. I'm glad it was fruitful for you.
Yes. How about you?
Actually, the week has been a little bit crazy. We're trying to do a move to Florida, so there's like paperwork and stuff. So personally, stuff's a little bit crazy. But professionally, I'm pretty happy. I wrote a lot. I had lots of inspiration come from weird places, but I'm happy. I'll take it any way I get it. And so it was a good week. And thanks for asking. So I think that's a great transition into our topic today, which is inspiration. Did anybody ever ask any of you guys, how do you think of your stories, and what is the answer that you give them? Just anybody experience that?
I've had people ask me, but I tend to kind of politely blow the question off because I think because I think if you're not a writer, you don't understand. I think that if you're not a writer, you have this image of writers as being somebody sitting there drinking tea and, just wistfully coming up with these ideas and write it down. And it's not like that, right? It's like, it's different. Like for me, a lot of times it's like through life experiences, like things that will happen to me. I'll get, examples like from that or, just I don't know. Like, what about you guys think? Have you ever had to answer that question?
Yeah, and it feels really kind of weird because it's almost like someone said, "Where did you get all that typo negative blood?" And sometimes I'm just like, I don't know. The story is in my head and I have to write it down. Now, that's
Yeah.
not to say that I'm not, because I try to be really prolific and sometimes you just kind of nothing, you have no O negative blood, which would be a sad case. But anyway, the point is sometimes you do have to go looking for the inspiration. Am I right? Or
Yes.
Mhm.
you guys just always have stuff just, kind of sizzling or simmering away?
Well,
gotta-
I spent most of my childhood daydreaming,
Mm,
and when I wasn't daydreaming, I was reading.
Mm.
So I feel like I've just always had stories in my
Mhm.
head, and I even have said at times that I have a constant narrative running in my head. And so, but a lot of the things that we go through in life, the tragedies, the hurts, even the joys and the adventures, places we've been, they all kind of get thrown into the soup pot. And when we get inspired to write something, all those things kind of come out
Yeah.
in that.
So
as opposed to like a search for
Yes.
inspiration. So it's not as though, but I mean, I've had to go looking for it because, okay, so this 1 month I challenged myself to write a story every day, even if it was really short, just beginning, middle, end.
Mhm.
The duck saw a bug, the duck chased the bug, the duck got hit by a truck, the end. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I'm like, what am I going to write about? So I had to go looking for inspiration. Have you all ever done that? And where have you found inspiration?
I like to people watch. So
Yeah.
I might not get full story ideas, I think, from watching people, but I'll get characters. Like I like to write rich characters and characters that maybe like you just like when you read it, like you can see that person. I don't care if it's just a waitress that it's in the story. Like I'd like to be able to write a waitress that when you read it, you think you've gone to the diner and she's waited on you. So like the only way that I can do that is by actually looking at people and observing them and having conversations with them and like that and thinking about things that other people don't think about, I think, when they are interacting with strangers or with other people. Um,
You want to know what's funny is I'm always nervous to talk to like psychiatrists because I'm worried that they're analyzing me as they talk to me, but maybe I should be more afraid to talk to writers.
yeah, right.
And really, don't make us mad because you'll end up
Right.
dead in our novel. I'm just
But
telling you.
right. But as far that's funny you say that, but as far as me, and I know every writer is going to be different, but as far as me, I will get inspiration from people, but I don't necessarily put people into my novels. I remember my husband asked me once because I write romance. So my husband asked me once, he said, "So is any of these men me?" And I'm like, "No." Because for me, it's more, I would say that there's less people from the outside into my stories, and it's more that each of my characters have part of me in them. And I don't know if you guys experience that at all when you write. So it's that's why I think it's really hard for, at least at the beginning it was, for me to share my writing because I felt like I was exposing parts of me that nobody knew or nobody saw. Even the bad people in my books, there are parts of their personalities or quirks that they do, things that are from me. And so it's kind of like you're exposing yourself, but I've taught myself that people don't know what parts of my characters are me. So they don't really know what I'm showing them. So
So you've just told us that all the bad stuff.
yeah, basically.
We're going to
So,
be
yeah.
like wondering now.
So, okay, I'm going to I know that when I say this, Rhonda, because she's so much about the journaling thing, it sounds like you should be mindful kind of all the time and then write stuff down maybe so that when you're dry and you don't have any typo negative flowing and you need an idea, you can pick up your journal or whatever and find ideas. Rhonda, do you have like a Bujo page for ideas or something like that?
Yeah, I when I started Nano the first year, I started writing some pages dedicated to characters, character traits, looks, quirks, that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I sort of ended up taking over that Bujo, so I just have that reserved now. It's just sort of a resource for me, and I still add some things to it once in a while, but it's getting kind of full. So yeah, I do that.
Yeah, that's
And it's very
great.
helpful.
Does anybody take electronic notes of any sort? I mean, I have a little Evernote file. Evernote's like a note keeping. Like, okay, here's me with technology. I find an app or something and I use like 10% of what it possibly could probably do. But I do know that I can make a little note in Evernote, and I wrote down surnames that I thought were good in it that I hear like in real life. So I know it's actually someone's last name, but it isn't anybody that I know. Like, sitting in the restaurant and I hear a last name. Well, I'll put it in my Evernote. Oh, that's a good last name. And like that. Do you guys all do electronic journaling of any sort?
I start
I use
off.
my note app on my iPhone,
You have what?
but I write mine down.
Oh, okay.
I start
I
off
always
with.
have my Bujo with me.
Sorry, there's a little gap. I'm sorry.
Sorry. I'm done.
I start off with pen and paper. I do like Cam Weiland suggests when with her outlining that you start off with what if. So I have a story idea and I start writing down what ifs. What if this happened? Then what if that happened? I might have like 100 what ifs and only use like 3 of them. But from that, then I go to electronic. But I just do Microsoft Word. I know that there's lots of other probably more useful, even Scrivener, because I use Scrivener to write in, but I don't use Scrivener for my notes. I don't know why. I will make a Microsoft Word document and I will call it whatever the characters' names are, and then I just save it into a folder that I put everything else in for that novel. But that's the only thing I do electronically besides the writing.
Yeah. Here's my deal. I'm so not together. And like, I think all of the pens in our house run off with the extra socks and Tupperware lids. And so I can't ever seem to keep it together. Like, pen and paper by the bed ain't happening, but I know my phone's there charging.
Right.
So do you know I woke up in the middle of the night and like sung a song into my phone, or like, the little voice recorder thing has kind of, I really should go through and just randomly listen to all those files. I bet they're hilarious. But anyway, the point is the electronic works for me just because I'm kind of a scatterbrain. But I do love the whole analog pen to paper muscle thing, because I bet it also helps solidify that idea in your mind. I think that might be preferable for people who can do that. Or even maybe I should just write it right on the top of the dresser, since I have no paper. If I just can keep that pen there, then I can't lose it anyway.
Well, I have a Scrivener file with, like, it's full of all kinds of different stuff. Like, if I cut a scene from my novel that I liked, but it's just not working, I might put that over there. I have like character sketches and different things like that. I just wanted to let you know that the socks that disappear in the dryer turn into Tupperware lids.
Oh, because you have an abundance of them. Now we know where all of ours are. They're at Tina's house.
Yep. So that's where you have to go. Okay, so what else do you guys want to talk about finding inspiration? Like, what other ways can you find it if you're running low?
Well, for me, reading is a huge inspiration for me, and it's so much so that I have to be careful what I read, because I can't read outside the genre I'm writing in, because if I do, like, that's what happened. Now I have this whole story going about a little boy being kidnapped on my Patreon. It was because I was reading like a crime drama series about cop that found kidnapped kids, and that, like, so then we were having like a writing prompt or something for our writing group, and that's what came out, and it's like completely different genre than what my novel is in. So that's what happens, is what I'm reading influences what I'm writing.
I would have to agree
that
with
makes
Tina that I have to read within genre too. But it definitely inspires me. I will have to say that I had this story floating around in my head for years that I wanted to write, but I just never got around to doing it. And then I read a book by one of my favorite authors. I'm not going to say who. And I was so disappointed when it was done. I was just angry at how she had handled the female character. I felt that she was weak. I felt that the way that the romance had been handled was terrible. I just was like, I would never let my daughters read this, because I feel like it just makes them, like, oh, you're not complete unless you have a man in your life. And I was just so upset about the whole thing. But when I first picked up the book and started reading it, it was so similar to my idea that I was disappointed because I'm like, oh, now I can't write mine because it's already been done. And then by the time I finished, I'm like, I have to write mine because mine is going to be better than this. And that's how the book Phoebe's book started. So I think you can find inspiration not only in things that you enjoy, but things that really you don't enjoy that you read and this could have been better, and you get inspired by that and you want to do something in that genre or in that vein that's better.
So speak a little bit more on don't worry, you're not stealing their idea. Because some people
Right.
might be like, what do you mean? Read a book and then write. Are you
Right.
saying write that book over again? What are you
No.
saying when you get inspiration from another work?
No, obviously there are tropes in every genre. People always talk about the romance tropes, but every genre has their own tropes that people follow, and so movies do as well. That's why why outlining can be easier because this is when this is supposed to happen, then this tragedy happens. But what I'm saying is that the idea ultimately was about a female pastor in the past. And I had done research before this and found out that in my denomination, right around the time that World War I ended, there were like 750 or so female pastors in my denomination. By the time World War II ended, there were like 25. So there was obviously some sort of shift. And so to me, I wanted to write in that time when women were becoming pastors, when they were getting the right to vote. And I just really wanted to write something in that time period. This book was written in the same time period about a woman pastor, and yet it was like she was oblivious to the fact that the world was changing around her. So my story is nothing like the other one, other than the fact that they're both female pastors and set similarly time periods. So what I'm saying is you can be inspired by something and write similar, but your story will be completely different. There is no copying because there is no story that hasn't already been written. I don't remember what author was it that said that, but every story that's ever going to be written has already been written. You're just going to put your perspective on it, your personality into it, your characters into it, and then it'll be your story.
And I think that if we all received the same outline for the same story, and we're told to go write that story, that we would end up with 4 completely different stories.
Yeah.
Look at
I can't even rewrite my own novel and come up with the same story. It completely changed. So
Hilarious.
Right. Look at our writing example, our writing exercises.
Yeah.
I can't wait for today's because I don't think anyone got anywhere near what I did. So I'm excited about sharing today.
What were you going to say, Rhonda? Were you going to say something, Rhonda? Can you hear me? Rhonda, can you hear me? Were you going to say something? Yes. Yes. Were you going to say something before we all erupted in laughter?
No.
Oh, awesome. All right, because I feel like we just rolled right over you. It might have just been like an amen or something like that.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So I guess then, what about other forms of media? You ever been inspired by a song you hear or TV show you watch or something? Anyone think of a particular example?
Right now, I cannot get out of my head the Rascal Flatts song. Now I can because I can't think of it now that we're live. It's an old one. And watching you walk away. Hey, having so much to say and watching you walk away.
Watching you walk away.
Yeah. Not the whole song, just that line is stuck in my head. So I guarantee you that there's a story coming from me that will have that, or I might fit into the story I'm already writing. But so songs do affect me. Sometimes it'll be worship songs will help me to bring about like the spiritual growth in my characters or something like that. But songs have an effect on me for inspiration.
My novel was inspired by scripture. I was actually teaching a Bible study on the life of Moses. And so I was going through, Leviticus and Deuteronomy. And at the same time that we were studying what the Old Testament said about the laws that God gave to Moses, I was connecting them to Jesus Christ and how all of this stuff pointed to Jesus Christ and how that fit together. So as Jen was saying about the what if question, so this what if question came into my head of what if we lost the New Testament? what if we had a society where we didn't know that Jesus was the fulfillment of all those laws and we were still trying to live under those laws? And that was the inspiration for the novel Lost in the Land of the Midnight Sun.
Yeah, and your story is so not copycatting the Moses story.
No.
Right. It's a great example of how inspiration is inspiration, not
Plagiarism.
yes.
Or,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So, any other tips and tricks about finding inspiration before we move on? Last call.
Well, writing prompts. I think we've more than demonstrated that in our podcasts, how writing prompts inspire us.
Yeah, like early on in our writing group when we were first formed and we went on our first writing, I think it was the very first writing retreat, and Rhonda's daughter brought along a writing prompt book, and we would do an exercise every morning. And no, it was before then. Anyway, it was a book that Gina had, and we had to all participate in this short story writing activity. And I was like, I don't have time to write a short story. I'm trying to get my novel done. And their short story idea was supposed to be like, what, 1,500 words? And I showed up to the next meeting with 6,000 words, and it was only like the first 2 chapters. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is going to be a book. And it ended up being my novella, Searching for Anna. So yeah, even these little writing exercises that you think are just going to get your mind going sometimes can blossom into a whole lot more.
Yeah, and that's what happened with my kidnapping story also.
Yeah.
It was a writing prompt that was a picture of 2 little boys in the park with their model airplanes. And we were supposed to write a story about it, and that's what happened. So,
Well, before I transition into the next segment, I would just like to say that the best ever inspiration is the Christian Indie Writers podcast. So you should tune in every week. All right, just had to do that. Okay, so now it's time for Feeding of the Back. What did you say? I said the feeding of the backs, because when we've given feedback about a piece, I will often turn to someone and say, is your back well fed? Especially a new person, because then they look at me like, what are you talking about? And ha, ha, ha. Sometimes it's a good joke, and sometimes it's a dad joke, and it totally flops. But anyway.
It's always a great joke, always.
Yes. We are going to give feedback to one another on a brand new piece that we just wrote in the 15 minutes before Jen started recording our podcast. So again, these are brand new stories. So we're always very gentle and encouraging so that everyone can feel safe to be vulnerable. And who is going to go first? I did not do the randomizer before we started the podcast. So do I have a volunteer? Thanks, Rhonda. How nice of you to volunteer.
I felt that in my bones.
So I guess we should say that we each brought a word.
Oh, yeah, we should. Yeah, go ahead, Tina.
And so each of us said one word at the beginning, and we had to use all 4 of the words in our story.
All right, what was your word, Tina?
Mine was relentless.
Mine was.
Go ahead, Jen.
Mine was trailer.
Rhonda.
Document.
I missed document. And my word was soda. Okay, so we each just told each other our word that we brought to the exercise right before we started typing. And we only had 15 minutes. So go for it, Rhonda.
All right. The relentless throbbing of the bass was fun at first, but now I just wanted silence. Or maybe a nice rendition of Brahms' Lullaby. I'm so tired. We've been at the county fair every single night this week. Even the rides are getting boring. I'm sure my mom would be glad to hear that. Dora's pulling me along by the bandana wrapped around my wrist. I make a mental note to quit wearing this particular accessory, but last time she used my jelly bracelets as a leash, so I guess nothing's safe from her control. Where now? She can't see my eye roll, but I do it anyway for my own satisfaction. She should be able to hear my exasperation, but I'm sure it hasn't convinced her to head home. Rocky's trailer, I told you, she squealed. I groaned loud enough for her to hear it in her lead position. Why? He's so weird. I chugged the rest of my Jolt soda. Maybe all the caffeine would give me a heart attack so I can go home and cuddle up with my book. He's not weird. She stopped mid-stride so she could punch my shoulder. He's funny. Just because he doesn't live in some book, I really don't bother listening to the rest of her thought because she was already dragging me again. I'm not going into his weird carny trailer, I said. She laughed. Me either. Who's being weird now? We're just meeting Charlie and his friends there. That's as far as I got.
Oh my gosh.
That was your word, and you didn't get it. That's
So my
fun.
inspiration for that was maybe real life. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say.
I had to be real life because jelly bracelets and Jolt soda.
Yeah.
Because we're the same age, I totally know that was real life for you. That was not research. You knew that.
Right.
Did you almost run away with the circus, Rhonda?
Oh, I shouldn't say. I'll save that for next week.
Okay, I'm bringing the word circus next week.
Okay.
All right.
Oh,
so,
golly.
now, Jen, why don't you go ahead and go next? You said you doubt anyone came up with your version of these 4 words, so I can't wait to hear them.
Okay. First of
All
all, you guys know that the listeners don't. My Microsoft Word froze in the middle of our writing sprint, so I just switched over to I tried fixing it and then I switched over to handwritten. So we'll see how this goes.
Oh, and just before you move on, Rhonda, I did not say that I actually really loved your story. I just was laughing and enjoying it. It was actually a very good story. I really liked
Yes.
it.
Loved it.
Sorry. Go ahead, Jen.
I sipped my soda as the relentless stream of movie trailers rushed across the enormous screen. I tapped my foot in nervous frustration. How many of these things would there be? Another Pixar movie coming out near Christmas, another rom-com with mid-list actors, some sort of raccoon space adventure starring Chris Pratt.
Yay.
Nothing I cared about. Okay, so I was a little interested in the Chris Pratt movie. I mean, raccoons, space, a sexy Chris Pratt making adorable snarky jokes. Who wouldn't be interested in that? But still, I wish these previews would end already. Normally, I would be so stoked to be watching the trailers before the main event, but today was no normal day. Today was the day I got to see my story, my characters, my novel come to life on the big screen. Are you nervous? I turned to look at the handsome man to my left. Tall, gorgeous, and totally famous. The man who would soon be bringing the hero of my novel to life on the screen above. No, I lied. The man's beautiful wife leaned across him and whispered, "He's nervous enough for the both of you." The thought of Chris Hemsworth being nervous made me want to giggle. Really? I asked him. He shrugged, a little. For some reason, that information brought me some peace. If the world's most famous actor could be nervous, then it was all right if I was just a tad bit as well. Just a tad bit, though. I pulled out my cell phone and snapped a picture of the opening credits, based on the book by Jennifer Carl Tong, to document the momentous occasion. "Jen," my husband whispered, "I'm leaving for work." Leaving? I turned toward his voice, but he wasn't there. Just a human-sized bucket of popcorn sat laughing at me. "Jen, wake up." I rolled over in bed. You were Stop laughing. "You were having that dream again, huh?" "Yep." Sam Heughan? Chris Hemsworth. Well, at least you're keeping it real. That's it.
That's so funny. I love that.
I love that he's a human-sized bucket of popcorn.
Oh yeah. That was so perfect.
Lots of fun. That's really fun.
I gotta tell you, I actually had a dream that Chris Hemsworth was in a movie I wrote last night. It was like the weirdest thing.
Wow.
I don't ever dream about Chris Hemsworth, I promise. But that was
Maybe it's prophetic.
maybe.
Mm.
He would
If
make
you're
a
fan, I
fabulous.
type a bucket of Cheetos.
I know, it should have been Cheetos. We'll discuss in the postcast why it should have been Cheetos. We'll save that for the
Okay.
postcast. But
Okay.
All right.
but yeah. Anywho, that's my
Very good, Jen.
Thanks.
That was
Loved
really,
it.
really good. Yeah. And it's well written too. I mean, in just
Yeah,
15
right.
minutes to not be all chock full of grammar errors and weird sentences. Good job. Okay,
Thanks.
Tina, do you want to go next or would you like to be last? I volunteer to go next.
I'll
if you-
go next.
Awesome. Go for it.
Mine doesn't have any like funny stuff or just like
We'll judge that.
Your writing is.
I kind of built up a reputation over the last 9 podcasts, and I'm afraid I'm going to let everyone down this time.
Mm.
Not having any twists. Okay.
Mm.
Sharon skipped through the campground on her way to the beach. Some campsites had trailers and some had tents. A few of them, especially the ones at the top of Holy Hill, had big, expensive motorhomes. Holy Hill was where the bathhouse was, and Sharon headed there to change into her bathing suit before skipping down the other side of the hill to the beach. A family sat outside the fence that enclosed the swimming area at a picnic table having lunch. Water dripped from the bench seat under the wet bottoms of the kids. The mom, clad in a brightly flowered one-piece with a towel wrapped around her torso and sunglasses on her head, handed out sodas. The father took a big bite out of his sandwich and made a joke at a chewing with his mouth open, loudly smacking into the ear of an offending child beside him. Sharon skipped by them, waving to the little girl who had sat near her in the kids' service. When she got to the gate, a camp counselor was checking everyone who entered for wristbands. Sharon didn't have one. "You can't come onto the beach without a wristband," said the pretty blonde with a kind voice. "Where do I get it?" asked Sharon. "Your mom and dad has to sign a waiver. Over there by the canoes. There's a counselor with the waivers." Sharon's face fell. She turned and trudged slowly back up the Holy Hill, around the corner where the bathhouse was, and down the other side. Her daddy hadn't come to camp meeting. He had to work. Mommy was taking a nap with the baby. Sharon doubted she would want to go to the beach and sign a document just so Sharon could swim. When she got to the trailer where she was staying with her mom and baby brother, sure enough, he was asleep, and Mom was in a camping chair with her feet up and a book in her hands. Sharon walked over and plopped into a chair beside her mom. "I thought you were going to the beach." "Can't. Don't have a wristband." "I thought you only needed a wristband for the water slide," said her mom. "No. Nellie said I can't even go on the beach without one." The baby started crying from inside the camper. Sharon's mom put down her book and rose to go to him. "Tell you what, I'll get the baby changed and we'll all go to the beach together. This heat is relentless and a nice dip would feel so good right about now." Sharon jumped up and down and clapped her hands. A few minutes later, she and her mom and her baby brother in his stroller headed up Holy Hill, around the bathhouse, and back down the other side to the beach. A few minutes waiting for her mom to sign the papers, and she was on the beach.
Yay!
That's it.
So glad she got to the beach.
Yes.
Me too. I'm glad she had a nice mom that was also wanting to swim. That's great.
Mhm.
Yay. That was a very nice
Yeah.
story.
I especially like all the references that I completely understood, like Holy Hill. And the
Yes, this is a very true story
yes,
for a lot of kids at camp meeting this last week.
because they added the new thing where you had to have a bracelet just to swim, which was, and the pretty blonde was Bree, who hated the job because everyone was getting mad at her, but she was only doing what she was told to do. That's so funny.
Just for fun, I mean, we can obviously spot the inspiration for Tina's piece today was the
Mhm.
week she spent at camp meeting. And Jen, yours was the dream you had,
Right?
right?
Mm-hmm.
And Rhonda, what inspired your story?
I'm gonna say real life. Guessing.
She wanted to run away with the circus.
Well, I'll tell you, that's for next week. I'll tell you that soda is something that a friend of mine who grew up in Michigan, she should be using the word pot, but she always used the word soda. I don't know why. And we used to go to the fair for like the entire week. It was the week before school every year. And so, I don't know, just that whole thing just sort of got the ball rolling.
Nice. I just thought it would be neat to talk about
True
that
life
since that was
inspiration.
our topic today. So,
Awesome.
before I read, good job, Tina. By the way, is your
Sure.
back sufficiently fed?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I would like to say that if you ever meet me in real life, you're going to be shocked that I'm so tan because this webcam makes me look fair as the driven snow. And I just think it's pretty hilarious that people are going to be like, wow, you've been spending some time in the sun when they finally meet me. But I do have, see, when I'm over here, you can kind of see it. See how rosy I am? Anyway, I digress. So my story was inspired by, in part, Tina's submission for the postcast. And you'll see why. Okay? So that's all the introduction you get. And I missed the word document. Okay. I plunged my hand into the icy water in the cooler, fishing for a bottle of water, but it was filled with soda. I silently cursed. My mouth felt like it was coated in cotton, and the last thing I felt like drinking was liquid candy. But my case of water was back up the embankment in the bed of the truck. So I decided I would have to make do for now with a swig of fizzy, sugary water. I cracked the top and eyed the label skeptically. Is this diet? I asked. Dunno, Fred said. He did not bother to turn around, but instead flung another cast out onto the choppy waves of the brown-green river. Don't think so. Donna's turned me off diet soda. She says the fake sugar will kill me. I rolled my eyes at the mention of my friend's henpecking wife. She ever mention anything about switching away from soda altogether to something that for sure wouldn't kill you, like, I don't know, maybe water? Say again, Fred said, still not turning to look at me. I could see why I was having a tough time getting his attention. His eyes were fixated on something moving in the water about 10 yards from the shoreline and floating downstream toward where we'd set up camp. Is it an otter? I asked, noticing a jerking movement in the object that telegraphed life. I started moving down closer to the shoreline to get a better look. Fred didn't answer. He'd removed his footwear and rolled his jeans up past his knees the instant we'd parked our camp chairs. He waded now out into the water in an apparent effort to intercept whatever it was coming toward us. I tried to follow, but the relentless current was too strong for my slight frame, and I was forced to return to shore. Careful, Fred, I called. I saw the object, now clearly an animal, draw closer to Fred and then attempt to swim away from him, but he had serenity on his side and was able to easily subdue the flailing creature. Well, I'll be, I said, as he set the little fellow down on the embankment. A baby deer. The little fawn shivered and made a crying sound. Think we can warm him in the trailer? Fred asked, giving me the look I had never been able to resist. I suppose so, I said, but keep him off the bedding, and you are taking everything he touches to the laundry. I wrinkled my nose, including those clothes. The little fawn had other ideas, however. After just a few wobbly-legged moments on the embankment, it sniffed the air, took a few faltering steps, and then bounded off into the clearing. Before I could say, well, what do you think about that? The little fawn was out of sight. The end.
Aww.
Aw,
Love it.
feels good.
So glad the fawn escaped.
Yes, unlike the poor animal in Tina's postcast submission. It was this close to being a moose, but that would have been too very much like what Tina
Plus, I'm
sent
pretty
to
sure
us.
baby moose are pretty big. Like, that would have been a whole lot more wrestling, I think, to get them out of the water. So,
Or my character is like a Paul Bunyan kind of a guy.
yes, like
Yeah.
Chris Hemsworth. You can, I'll loan him. I'll loan him to you for your story.
If I have a dream now,
I hate that.
River-
Okay, I think we better get back on the.
I hate that I admitted that I had a dream about Chris Hemsworth, because now you guys are all going to tease me about that. But it was just he was in the movie. That's all I'm saying.
Is that a request?
No.
All right. So it's time now to go over to the accountability corner. Let's go peek in the corner and see if we've been doing a good job meeting our goals. How'd it go for you this week, Rhonda? What's your goal for next week?
Well, I did well this week. When it comes to actually my goal, I did not complete it because my goal was to get my website up and running by today, and I didn't do that. And it's because of the graphics. It's not that I don't know how to do it. It's not that I'm concerned about them looking right when they're done. It's just I've got to completely get a mindset to get them on there, and that's what's holding me up. And it's a lame excuse, but that's why. Now writing, I did well writing this week. But that
Good
wasn't my
job.
goal. So my goal for this coming week is to have my blog up and running by next Tuesday. But then also write, because it's only like one evening's work to get my blog running. So, but I will be out of town for 4 days, so maybe I should just make it the blog. That'll be my blog.
All right. Well, you do have to make sure your goals are SMART, which means attainable, right? I mean, you don't want to give yourself a goal that you absolutely know you're going to not be able to meet. So good for you for assessing that wisely. What about you, Jen? How'd you do, and what are your goals for next week?
Well, my goals I think had to change halfway through the week because my week changed from what I expected. I expected I was going to be able to write every single day because I was going to be with Tina every single day. I thought we'd carve out some time and be able to do that, and that did not happen. I found myself driving on the road a whole lot more than what I expected. But I got a lot more business stuff done and more like outlining and just kind of like structural things in my life finished. And so I'm actually really pleased with how much, and I got some writing. I got a pretty decent chunk of writing done. So I'm actually pretty pleased with that. Next week, this coming week, my plan is to catch up on all the editing for the podcast, have that all ready to go, and have, I want to get another 5,000 words in, whether it's on the contemporary or on Phoebe's book or just a mixture. That's my goal. 5,000 words and the editing. I know it's pretty lofty,
5,000
but
words.
pretty
And
lofty,
then
but I got to get it
editing,
done.
yeah, like podcast editing, like these episodes, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's a pretty big deal. We appreciate that you do that for us. So thank you. All right, Tina Bambina, what were your goals? How'd you do with them? And what are your goals for the coming week?
My goal since I was at camp meeting was just to write every day, and I did do that.
Yay!
So I was happy about that. I mean, there might have been 200, 300 words, but they were words. So
Right.
This week I would like to write between 3,000 and 5,000 words. I'm not really sure. I have to work pretty hard with my regular job this week, so I don't want to overshoot, but I don't want to undershoot either. So I'm going to say between 3,000 to 5,000. And by the way, there's an Alaskan state bird in my room, so if you see me like having a mini stroke, like I don't want to get bit by this mosquito.
Oh, I was so confused for a second. I'm like,
I was like a sugar glider, a bat. Like my mind went to all these crazy places.
I'm like a
So maybe
crane.
that's
There's a crane.
inspiration.
There's a crane flying around a
Mosquito.
room.
There's a mosquito, and he keeps flying like right here. So, like,
Well, all right. Well, we will not worry then if we see you randomly flailing. I did write. I met my word count goal. Yay! Surpassed it by about 1,000 words, which made me really happy. But it was mostly thanks to you ladies and our online word sprints we've been doing. Super fun and super productive. Really appreciate you guys helping me out with that. And I just want to ask Tina, do you have a deadline for getting your entire draft finished?
I want to be done with. I want to be at 50% by August 31st.
All right.
I'm
end of the
taking it.
month.
I'm taking it a quarter at a time.
Okay. Yes, because you finished your 25% end of June, didn't you?
Yep.
Okay. I just was curious about that. Jen, do you have a projected published date or a goal for getting? I can't remember which one comes first.
Searching for Anna.
Yeah.
I hate to say a date only because it's not dependent on me right now. Right now it's dependent on other people, and I am waiting for some phone calls back having to do with my cover. So my goal is for Anna, because it's the first one, my goal is to have it out this month, at August at some point.
Awesome. That's great.
But we'll see.
Awesome. Yeah, I was asking mostly because I have to actually sit down and kind of make some goals for publication. I have some things that are pretty close to ready, and I'm going to have to be setting those goals in the near future. So it'll be fun to follow as we all get one step closer. And I know, Rhonda, you're going to be published in like a local newspaper, right? Your articles that you're writing?
Yeah.
What is that paper? Do we get it, or do you have to live in your town?
I think you have to live in the town. I am not going to bother submitting them to the large newspaper locally, just because, I don't know, I haven't really put a lot of thought into that right now, but there are 4 small local papers that I think would draw the most people into the museum, because I think they're more widely read than the large local newspaper at this point in our area. So...
Well, that's very strategic of you. I mean, you don't want to sort of, waste resources, because it costs money, doesn't it, to get into a paper if it's not like a reporter covering you or something?
Well, it depends. Sometimes human interest stories, they really desire those. So it's not going to be an ad. So there won't be any payment.
Gotcha.
Or, we will not be
Yeah.
paying to put the article in the paper.
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, I just want to remind everyone watching or listening that you can get a great resource by becoming a person who is on our newsletter. All that means is you submit your email address to the link below, and you will become a subscriber to our newsletter. You will get a great resource called a critique cheat sheet. It will help you both give and receive critique. And also, if you are not one of our valued patrons, you need to go to Patreon right now and sign up to be a patron for the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, because we are about to launch the postcast after we sign off here. We're going to get a little bit more into a meatier critique of each of a work that each of us has submitted, and it's going to be a lot of super fun. So you can only see the postcast if you are one of our patrons. So sign up now so that you can be a part of that. I think that is it. And this concludes this episode of the Christian Indie Writers Podcast. And until next time, may your pen be prolific, may your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ. Bye now.
Bye.